How we going, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. I celebrated 800 subscribers the other day, and during that video, I asked my subscribers any suggestions they had for a video that they wanted to see, and I've had quite a few requests. So I'm going to be working my way through them one by one. So this is the first of the series, and so it was Back for One More who requested that albums you were looking forward to but they disappointed you. How about that? So yeah, and when I first thought about it, I thought, well, I can't really think of any, like nothing, anything that's been that bad. And then one coming to mind, then another, then another. And the more I started thinking about it, yeah, there's been a few disappointments. So it got to the point where I had to start writing them down. So yeah, good idea. Back for one more, and yeah, let's get into it. So here we are. Big anticipation, big disappointments. So I'm not going to be talking about albums that are just sort of known as, being a bit of a stinker, be it, St. Anger or something like that. This is one I was really looking forward to. I was really anticipating it. I went to the record shop, bought it on release day, and yeah, just got it home and thought, what the hell have I just bought? So I think the big one for me when it comes to mind really anticipating a new release is what I normally do as well. I show albums off, and a lot of these albums I haven't got, or at least haven't got anymore. So yeah, I've not really got anything to show you. So you just have to, So yeah, Slayer, Christ Illusion. When did that come out? 2006, was it? Did that come out? I've not got it anymore. But yeah, let me paint a picture. Iron Maiden are at a low point in their career. They get Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith back. Explosions. All of a sudden, and then Judas Priest. They're at a low point. They get Rob Halford back. Bang! Career explodes again. And it started a bit of a trend. People started getting the original singer back. People started getting their classic lineup back. And Slayer, who, in all fairness, Paul Bostoff who was the drummer at the time, did leave of his own accord. It's not as if they kicked him out. But yeah, with Paul Bostoff quitting Slayer, they got Dave Lombardo back, and it was just the second coming. And yeah, here we go. This is going to be the sequel to Seasons of the Abyss. They even got the artist that did obviously with Slayer, you've got that trilogy, Rain in Blood, South of Heaven, Seasons in the Abyss. They even got that artist, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. He did the artwork for the album. I think Rick Rubin even produced it, even though later on it came out that Rick Rubin didn't really do much. We'll get to another example of that later on. And yeah, I just remember thinking, like, this is going to be amazing. Dave Lombardo's back in Slayer, and I loved The Gathering by Testament. I saw Dave Lombardo in Phantomus with Mike Patton. And yeah, and you know what it's like when you first get an album, you listen to it that first time and you're like, yep, that's good, but it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. You know that you enjoyed it, but you didn't really take anything in. So you listen to it a couple of times, you listen to it, over the next couple of days, you start getting used to the songs start making sense, bits start standing out to you, and then, especially if you're not quite sure on the first couple of initial listens, maybe maybe the band's trying something different or something like that. And what is going on with this mic? And yeah, but then eventually it slots into place and you go, yeah, I'm liking this. And that just never came with that album. I can honestly not tell you a song off it. No, in fact, I was about to sing a riff, but that's actually the riff to World Painted Blood. Yeah. It's just psychotic devotion. I think that was one. Yeah, G-Ed with that ding 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 crap riff at the beginning. And the thing was, Dave Lombardo, yeah, is a phenomenal drummer, but it was pretty apparent he wasn't who he was in the 90s. I don't think Dave Lombardo, and I even interviewed Dave Lombardo once, and you could tell his heart wasn't in metal anymore. Do you know? He wanted to do other stuff, but metal was what paid the bills. It was his metal stuff that people gave a shit about. But the key thing to Slayer is, Angel of Death, Rain in Blood, South of Heaven. You air drum to those. That's what really makes a great drummer is distinctive drum patterns that are just as recognisable and just as thingy as the guitar riff. A great guitar riff, you find yourself playing air guitar. Great drums, you find yourself air drumming to. And I can tell you, South Heaven. I drum along with it. I forgot Dave was on the album. There was no drum patterns stuck out. You could say it was buried in the mix, probably was, but it doesn't matter. Dave Lombardo was meant to be back, and I had to keep reminding myself that Dave Lombardo was on the album. None of the drums stood out. They stood out when Paul Bostoff was in the band. That drum at the ending of Disciple, the drums on that song are phenomenal. He's all over that kit and he's beating the shit out of it. And Dave, it was just, it was just pedestrian. And everyone says that there's a blast beat on the last. What's the last track of Christ's Illusion? Everyone says there's a blast beat. Is it fuck? No, it's not. I kept listening to that song. Oh yeah, there's a blast beat at the end of that. Listen to that. Dave Lombardo does a blast beat, and then the song would finish. I'm like, where was the blast beat? Yeah. So anyway, Well Painted Blood was slightly better. I didn't actually mind Repentless when it came out, but yeah, Christ's Illusion was the worst one. Following up from that was Morbid Angel. You know the one. The Invictus Ilos Dilos Videros one, where they went all industrial. Again, David Vincent comes back into the band. They toured for like 6 years before they did an album with him. And they got a new lineup as well. Pete Sandoval had a back injury. So Tim Young came in on drums, which wasn't, a bad thing. And then you got Destructor on guitar, who's in a fantastic black and death metal band. I've got both their albums down now. I can't pronounce the name, and I'm not going to go look for them. But yeah, he's a good guitarist. Wrote 2 songs on the album. Now, I would have liked Eric Rutan to be in the band, but Eric Rutan... No, I don't think Eric Rutan did produce that album, did he? But he did produce the one afterwards. I think he recorded the drums, something like that. But yeah, you know what happens. So yeah, that was a disappointment. I think it was kind of unfair that Dave Vincent got all the flack for that album as well. It's like he got the blame for it. It wasn't his fault. That was Trey. And Trey, that's his band. He's the Steve Harris of that band. Don't tell me. He had plenty of time to put the brakes on and go, no, this isn't Morbid Angel. This isn't going to work. So you can't blame it all on David. And apparently Trey was listening to that sort of music and did want to incorporate it into Morbid Angel's sound. And I don't think people were particularly against Morbid Angel mixing electronic, industrial elements into the sounds. They just needed to pull it off, and they just didn't pull it off. But even more disappointment was to follow. So David gets out of the band. Steve Tucker comes back in. Now, I was kind of relieved at that point because I like Steve Tucker. I think Formula's Fatal to the Flesh is probably my favourite Morbid Angel album. And I love Gateway to Annihilation. Don't mind Heretic, but you got to be in for the long haul for that album. So Steve Tucker's back. They got a new drummer. Eric Rutan's not on the album, but he is producing the album, which is just as good. He's bound to do a couple of solos. 3/4 of the Gateway to Annihilation lineup are doing an album. Fantastic. Can't wait. Exactly the same thing happens with Kingdom Disdained as Christ's Illusion. I kept listening to it over and over again, and it just went. Couldn't get into it. That's the worst, is when you want to like an album and it just doesn't hit you. Now, the problem you had with Kingdom Disdained, let me see if I can find it. Right. The big problem with Kingdom Disdained, with Morbid Angel, yeah, Steve Tucker's back in the band, but the thing is, before that, Steve Tucker had formed his own band called Warfather. And the guy that did this artwork also did the artwork on Kingdom Disdained. I don't even... Is this the same guy? I'm not sure. And Eric Rutan also produced this album. I'm not sure if he produced the first one. And there's nothing jumping out at me here. Let's quickly get the booklet just to grab a quick. No, it wasn't. But Eric Rutan did do the second one. Now here's the problem. Steve Tucker had formed his own band. These albums are better than Morbid Angel. That was the problem. And this album alone is better than anything Morbid Angel have done in the last 25 years. Same thing happens, which leads me to my next one, The Haunted. What have we got? Now, The Haunted got really weird for a bit. So, you got the debut album with Peter Dolvin on vocals. He leaves after one album. Marco... I forget the guy's name now. Marco... What's his name? Marco Aro. After all that. Marco Aro. He jumps in for one of the best albums ever. The Haunted Made Me Do It. What was the one afterwards? One Kill Wonder. Then he leaves the band. Peter Dolvin comes back and they do Revolver. Another one of the greatest metal albums ever. Two of my favourite albums. I should do a Haunted retrospective at some point, thinking of it. Yeah. Then things get a bit weird, like they always do. And I don't really need that one. And then they do Unseen, which got a lot of stick when it came out, because they basically went clutch and kind of went a little bit commercial. I didn't mind some songs on it though. I really like the song Disappear, and I really like the title track Unseen. And Peter was doing more with his voice, and I think they wanted to do music that reflected more of his voice. And I don't know, the clutch stuff I wasn't a fan of, to be honest. But I don't know, when it worked, it worked well, but when it didn't, it kind of fell flat. But it got a lot of stick, that album. And then Peter Dolvin went off on one and quit the band. And do you remember he did that big long post saying that they were sneaking drugs on the tour bus and all that, slagging everyone off. And yeah, they kind of rejigged the lineup. Marco come back into the band, and they did Exit Wounds. Now, it's not that this is a bad album, but Marco had done another band with, well, a bunch of different people, but mainly the main guitarist from Jesper, I forget the guy's surname, from In Flames. That's the band. get the lineup. Yeah, Marco Arab, Jesper Stromblad on guitar. And yeah, they did an album called Scars. And there you go. And yeah, I'm kind of glad he's back in the bands. The album's pretty good. Problem is, this is better than it. And they kind of kicked this. They did a second album as well. Think like death metal, but in a hardcore. Like Hatebreed are like 2.5 minute, simple, straight ahead, like punch in the face songs. So think of like a hardcore album, but death metal. That's the best way. It was fucking awesome. Real raw, punch in the throat, awesome album. Straight to the point, short songs, razor sharp riffs, pummeling drums, great vocals, scathing. Yeah. And I'd rather he just stayed with them. Yeah, that was the problem with that one. Let's put that there for now. What else? Obviously, Metallica. I'm just going to scroll these off, otherwise I'm going to... Yeah, Metallica. Pretty much everything from Lulu onwards. It's like, right, so obviously they had the big balls up with St. Anger. Then they put out Death Magnetic, which was kind of a return to form. And everyone... You always get this whenever a Metallica album comes out. You've got the group of Metallica fanboys that think every time, every note that James Hetfield strums his guitar, and every beat every beat and every note is a gift from God. They are musical geniuses. The new album, whichever album it is amazing, and you're just stuck in the past. Blah blah blah. And then the other end of the spectrum, you got everything they do is shit. They've been shit since they kicked Dave Mustaine out. And, both are equally ridiculous and both deny reality. And every time there's a new Metallica album out, you have this thing where these fanboys just defend just this mediocre, boring album. And the problem with Death Magnetic is the same with every album Metallica have done since Black Album, is they don't have an editor. It's an over-egged pudding. Metallic bloat, as they call it. And but Death Magnetic weren't bad, although I remember saying to someone, like, someone was going, "Oh, Death Magnetic's awesome." I went, "When was the last time you listened to it?" And they were like, when that tour came out, it was like 4, 5, 6 songs they played off it. By the end of the tour, they were playing one song off it. But yeah, anyway, big disappointment though was Lulu, because whatever you think of Death Magnetic, they were back in the people's good books again. They were metal again, at least. The fact that the album wasn't shit, people were giving it 5 out of 5. That's how desperate they were to have something good from Metallica. And they went and just fucked it again with Lulu. What on earth were they thinking? Excuse me. And then you had that other one, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Again, that didn't need to be a double album. And then that other one come out with a yellow front cover. I listened to it on YouTube and yeah, it's alright. I just couldn't be bothered anymore. But yeah, Metallica just continue to disappoint. Being a Metallica fan is like, it must be like supporting a real shit football team. That won a league yonks ago. But anyway, another one for me that was a big disappointment was Sepultura. The mediator between the head and the hand must be the heart. Is that it? I really tried with Sepultura, the Derek Green years. Now, I'm a defender of the Blaze Bayley era of Iron Maiden. I love Tim Owens' era of Priest. I've got a poster there of Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath, and I'm loving that. You had the Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath box set come out. Looks like Tony Martin's getting some love. Seems like Blaze Bailey's finally getting his flowers. He's getting a lot of good reports from the media, and everyone's turning rounds on Blaze now. He's getting vindicated, and Tim Owens is killing it. In fact, I think getting kicked out of Judas Priest was good for Tim Owens. So yeah, I love it. I mean, one of my more controversial videos was me talking about John Bush and Anthrax. I'm all for when a band changes singer. I've not got a problem with Derek Green as a vocalist or as a performer. I think he's fantastic. And if anything, if Max Cavalera came back to Sepultura, it never happened. But if Max was to go back to Sepultura, I think they should have kept Derek Green. And he should have stayed on vocals. There's been a 5-piece, but that would never have happened, I know. But my problem with Sepultura, Derek Green era, is Andreas Kisser. I think it took a few years for Max Cavalera to find his guitarist. I think Max Cavalera can write songs, and he's a good enough musician to get an idea across, but he needs a musician to really, colour in the picture, so to speak. And he had that with Andreas Kisser. It took him a couple of albums with Soulfly, but he eventually found it with, what's that guy's name? Marco something. He was in Soulfly and Cavalera Conspiracy. He used to be in Il Nino. Oh, Mark Rizzo? Is that his name? He found it again with him, anyway. And so Max found his musician to put his songs onto. Andreas Kisser never found the songwriter to, the guy's a fantastic guitarist, but he's not. I just don't think he's a very good songwriter, and he needs someone to bounce off. He needs, and yeah. So up until The Mediator, I wrote a review for it for the. I pre-ordered the album. I wrote a review for it for the magazine I wrote for at the time. And the editor even went, I ain't publishing that. And I went, well, I'm being honest, He was like, I'll publish it, but I'm gonna add a star. He's like, you're gonna get us in trouble with Nuclear Blast. But I even said in my review at the time, this isn't someone that doesn't like Sepultura. I've bought every album up until this point. But yeah, that album, I just reached the point of I can't do this anymore. I just can't do it. I'm sick of waiting for this band to make a classic album. There's, when Joey Belladonna comes back to Anthrax, people are bitching, rightfully so, that he doesn't sing anything of the John Bush era. Bruce Dickinson come back to Iron Maiden. He did Sign of the Cross. He did Lord of the Flies. Judas Priest. Rob Halford's never sung a Tim Owens, but people want Rob Halford to sing Cathedral Spires. People wanted to hear Sign of the Cross. People want to hear the John Bush songs from Anthrax. But the fact of the matter is, if the classic lineup of Sepultura did get back together, which I think they're going to, by the way, we'll get to that in a minute. No one's going to be pressurising Max to sing a Derek Green era song. Don't kid yourself. No way. It'll be as if that never happened if they got back together. Because it's always lukewarm. It's always just like, there's a couple of good songs. Yeah. Couple of good songs. Oh, there's a couple of good riffs here. Yeah. Oh, they'll find their feet, though, and then the next album's going to be the classic. And then Revolution. Sepul Nation, that was it. Or is it just called Nation? Comes out. Yeah, right, they're finding their feet with them there. The next album's going to be a classic. Then Roarback comes out. And then what was it? Dante. Right, it's a concept. Right, this is going to be the one. They finally found their feet. This is going to be the one. Yeah, this is a good... The classic album never came with Derek. Oh, apparently the last one was really good. But the people that say that said that about the one before it. So, whatever. So that's Sepultura off the list. And I think, yeah, right. Let's do this one next. Right, Anthrax for All Kings. Now, I bid you to go back to my video, Anthrax and the biggest fuck up in metal. I think they should never have got rid of John Bush. I think the last one they did, the last album they did with John Bush, the Best Side of Two Evils or something like that, something of Two Evils, where he re-recorded a load of Neil Turbin and Joey Belladonna songs, all basically classic Anthrax songs before he was in the band, re-recorded with John Bush on vocals. That was solidifying him in the band. But no, they chased the money and got Joe Belladonna back. Then they got that other guy in. I can't remember the guy's name. And they actually recorded an album with him. Then they fell out with him, kicked him out. John Bush did actually come back. He did 9 gigs, did a bunch of festivals with them. But John Bush was just like, yeah, fuck you. I don't want to be part of an album that I weren't part of the creation process for, or whatever. And it was like, oh, John, just bite the bullet and do it, man. Like they know they fucked up. They've admitted it. You know, just take this one on the chin and he can go, you know. But he didn't. And so then they get Joey Belladonna back again and they do worship music. And purely by fluke, that album was awesome. Because I was thinking, I'm getting an album here that the singer's not my first choice because I was happy with John Bush, but he's not even the band's first choice. He's like their third choice. They literally got him to record the album because they didn't have anyone else, and he probably needed the gig. This album's going to suck. But it was really good. Worship music was really good. But for All Kings, the truth came out on that album. That was the most uninspired, in one out the other, fucking crap album ever. So that was another big disappointment because I'd kind of got my hopes up with the last one. And I think now I'll finish with these two. Shadows Fall and Unearth. 2 great bands, but I don't think either of those bands really fulfilled their potential. So a bit like with Sepultura, I was saying the next album's going to be a classic. The next album's going to be a classic. And I felt that was what happened with Unearth. I'm just looking for an Unearth CD if I've got one down here. What's Shadows Fall? Oh, there's a Shadows Fall one there. Right, I'll start with Shadows Fall. So Art of Balance comes out. Really good album. Loads of potential. So you've got the whole metalcore thing going on with a lot of old school thrash. A bit of Iron Maiden melodies in there. Really good album. Stepping Outside the Circle, great. Art of Balance, great song. Idle Hands, yeah, great album. And they're doing a lot of support slots. They're playing the Underworld. Yeah, cool. Then The War Within comes out. Yes. Now we're cooking. So we've got 2 great albums that are, you know, it's looking like they're going to go places. But again, Shadows Fall never quite became headliners. And then they signed to Roadrunner. And you're like, right, here we go. This is going to be the one. The Master of Puppets, you know? And it just didn't get there, did it? I can't remember. It had that green cover with that purple goblin thing. It was just crap. That album, yeah, it was shit. And I don't know if they did an album after that. But the last album Shadows Fall did before they split up was pretty good. But I think the momentum was gone by then. But they were always great live. But yeah, they never became headliners and they never quite... It was like, really good album, really good potential. Oh, really good album, really good potential. And yeah, I mean, The War Within's got like this 20th anniversary thing where they're playing the album in full, and that's like, you know... Art of Balance and War Within showed the potential for a classic to come, and now in 20 years later, it turns out that was the classic. And yeah, just I thought better stuff was coming. And then Unearth. When Unearth put out their EP, the one with the black EP with the white like silhouette drawing on it, had Endless, the song Endless. That was the heaviest song ever. And they put out the Oncoming Storm, and Endless was re-recorded for that album. Although I preferred the version that was on the EP, but whatever. But yeah, fuck off. Sorry about this. But you had Zombie something. I can't remember what it's called. But the Oncoming Storm had, it was a near perfect album, really. But it wasn't. They weren't becoming headliners. They were just a really good support band. And I'm being distracted here because I'm looking for the Oncoming Storm. I should have prepared, really. Sorry to meander, folks, but you know what I'm like. Is it down there? No. Anyway, so Oncoming Storm, again, it shows potential. They did do an album before that. I can't remember what it was called. I didn't really hear it. It was hard to get hold of at the time. But you had the EP with Endless on, and then you had the Oncoming Storm. And then, again, I can't remember what label they got signed to, but they got signed to a pretty decent record label. And Terry Date was recording their third album, and it was called Free, In the Eyes of the Storm, or something like that. And that they did a DVD that come with it, and it was the big thing, Terry Date's hot shit. He's done the Deftones album, he's done Vulgar Display of Power. The list goes on. And again, Unearth are hitting the big time. The album had like one good song on it, and then the one afterwards, it was just like, ugh, whatever. They put that. I did review their last album. I did buy the last album to check in with them, and that was a really good album actually. It made me want to go back, but I didn't. But so Shadows Fall and Unearth, I think, could have been better, but I think Unearth would probably still be an awesome live band. But I'm seeing if it's down here, but no, it's not. And the same goes for Shadows Fall, but again, they just never. They're always just a really good support band. It was a shame they never became headliners. So yeah, we got Slayer, Christ Illusion, Let Down. Morbid Angel, the last two albums were a letdown. Metallica, everything after Lulu onwards. Everything from Load onwards, really. Sepultura, Derek Green, I just could never get into it. The Haunted and Morbid Angel proved that getting your original singer back doesn't always work. Same goes for Anthrax. And yeah, I felt Shadows Fall and Unearthed never really reached their full potential. And I think that's about it for my most anticipated but most disappointing records. And I'm sure when I go to bed tonight, I'm going to think of a load more. So if I do, I'll keep noting them down and do a part 2. But back for one more. I hope that's scratched the itch, and I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll move on now to the next request the people have got. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for leaving comments. And I really appreciate all of you. So thanks for watching. Take care, guys. All the best.